get lost.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Happy Monday.
Oh, hey, man. How was your weekend, Bryce?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Got a little relaxing in. But yeah, had a good weekend. How about you?
Pretty good. Went to some Sketchfest shows.
Oh, nice. How was that?
Good. I was in a green room, standing very awkwardly next to Kevin Pollak, Bobcat Goldthwait, and Michael McKean.
Wow. Very
I
cool.
didn't say it. I just stood there. I pretended to blend into the wall.
You weren't all up in their grill saying like, so anyone here planning to have a #1 comedy album this week? Anyone
I know,
anyone
yeah.
else? No,
It's
no.
like, anyway, as 4 equals, we can all discuss how, being comedy legends affects our lives, right?
There's this story a friend of mine talks about going to one of these magic conventions, and somebody's known among magicians, whatever, is interviewing David Blaine.
Yeah.
And the person interviewing him makes a comment like, well, you know, David, for us, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, for you two, unlike the audience, you know, the two of you, we think of, you know, David Blaine and Mr. Blank, you know, in the same, you know, same line. Absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, you know, it was good. Saw Joseph Scrimshaw's show. I was gonna go see the Double Clicks, but then their show sold out, so we were unable to get in. But good that they sold out.
Yeah.
And hi briefly to Aubrey and Laser.
Very cool.
But yeah, no, good times. Good times.
Is Sketchfest expensive to get into? Just to like visit?
It's a per show thing.
Oh, okay. So that's not too
So
bad.
I'm sure that you could probably buy some crazy pass that gets you into everything.
Mhm.
But by and large, it's just a bunch of really, it's great for smaller shows and for, you know, finding new things that you might like. It's huge with podcasts, although
Yeah.
not Night Attack. Didn't take Night Attack.
Mhm.
Definitely could have filled one of those theaters. Definitely filled those theaters by myself. Probably would have been able to fill a bigger theater if Brian was there. I mean, just saying.
Did we,
Sketchfest.
Maybe next year.
So we did apply, right?
We did apply.
Okay.
We did
All right.
apply. You know, it's fine. Certainly not something that went through my head literally every show I saw while they were playing venues that either we have already sold out, like the lobby of the
Piano Fight.
lobby of Piano Fight,
Yep.
or the small theater of Piano Fight, or the large theater of Piano Fight. Just
Oh
saying.
boy.
Next year. We'll get him next year.
Next year, it's something that I certainly won't harbor for a year. That's one thing I know for sure, is that things like that I immediately forget.
Mm-mm.
Is there like a bias against podcasters there or something?
No, it's actually lousy with podcasts.
They have tons of podcasts out
They
there.
love podcasts now because every comedian has a podcast. So the
Yeah.
comedians will be part of like their own sets or showcases, but then they'll also do their show. I think it's just, you know, a matter of knowing the right people, because there's definitely shows on there that are smaller than ours.
Or they just have taste, you know?
Hey, so
Either that, yeah.
how good are we looking for the right price of the album to be happening by launch day?
You have all the emails that I have. We can send another email today, but everything that we have is that iTunes should be fine when it lists. That's the word. Everything else, basically, they have to list it, and then it is out of CD Baby's control on changing it.
Yeah.
Got it.
This was part of why their whole thing was submit stuff more than 2 weeks before release date, because it always takes very long for all the stores to update. So
yeah, that's definitely not what they told us this time. They've told us that in the past, but we should have known better, and that's that.
So I guess we have to figure out what our message is, like whether it's to hold or not to hold. Because I think last time we told everyone to wait,
to buy it,
to not buy it. We said it's listed, but don't buy it yet because it's for the wrong price.
Oh yeah. Of what? Yeah, I mean that's what we're saying now, right?
Yeah, but I guess now knowing that there's going to be a asymmetrical rollout of correct pricing on different platforms.
Believe that's how it's been every time we've released an album.
Yeah.
This happens every time. Every time we cannot get the right price on Amazon or Google, and the right price is on iTunes, and we wind up just saying,
focus
buy it
on
on
iTunes.
The problem is that we would be able, theoretically, if we were assured that we could get it corrected by launch day, then people could buy it on Amazon, and it guarantees that the price that it launches at is the one that you'll be charged for. But we have no guarantees that anything will happen on time.
Yeah.
And we never heard definitively whether $1.99 or $3.50 is the preferred price number.
We have heard
Jack.
I mean, I forwarded all the emails, so you guys know what I know.
Yeah. I found $3.50 after some old news articles because of all the stuff about the price. So the $1.99, I don't know why that stuff was working in the past. But
I think the $1.99 was before there was any select price. But then I do remember that there was a different price for double-sized albums versus
a single album
albums.
and a double album. The double album had to cost twice as much.
Except then it didn't matter because like Night Attack Live was a double album, but only listed at a single album price, and it worked anyway. so there's that.
And they may only make that distinction for physical CDs.
Yeah.
Because I know last time when we did Night Attack 3, the guy who we had previously at CD Baby was like, you didn't need to do that. That was not a thing you needed to do. Just, hey, you know what? Get on the email list and you'll find out exactly what the guys decide with all of this messaging stuff.
Yeah.
bit.ly/Night Attack album.
Messaging is the same. It'll be live tomorrow, and you should buy it tomorrow. And it'll be listed somewhere at the correct price. It'll likely be iTunes. We hope that it will also be CD Baby is aware that we need to change it for Google and Amazon. They have submitted to Google and Amazon at the highest possible priority to change it. So we have a week to buy it, as soon as it comes out. So everybody, if you can do it on iTunes, it'll also be available on Spotify and Apple Music and Tidal. So if you are if you never would open iTunes in your life and you have one of those, then play it constantly, nonstop.
Yeah.
And we will hopefully have it live everywhere at the right price ASAP.
Yeah.
That's the messaging.
There we go. There's write it up. Someone write that up. All right. Are we good to do weird things though?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Then recording over there. All right. Well, wait for the cough. All right. Well, take it away, Andrew.
Hello and welcome to the Weird Things podcast. I'm Andrew Main, joined by Mr. Justin Robert Young.
Hello.
Mr. Brian Brushwood
Hello.
and Bryce Castillo.
Hi, everybody. Just here at the board, on the dials, working the show.
Well, first off, it's a little bit of a holiday today,
It's Martin Luther King Day.
right? Very, very, very amazing man, and one of my favorite people from the 20th century, as far as when it comes to 20th century heroes. So if there's a day that I think is deserved to celebrate somebody, I think it is today. Yeah.
Agree.
You know, something that I only recently came to hear.
For a moment there, I thought you were about to go, well.
No. Like you grow up, knowing that he's a great individual and that he did great things. But what I did not know until the last couple of years is that a psychological tactic from which I think we can all learn is his constant ability to phrase everything in terms of inclusiveness. If somebody's going to draw a circle that does not include someone, he would just always draw a bigger circle that include all of us. His messaging was always about, this is what our country is about. This is what our shared constitution says, and we should aspire to live up to the ideals of that. And I don't know why that part didn't get through to me for so very many years until the last couple of years when I read some articles saying so.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great tactic to say that this problem is our problem, and that's to make you think of it's great psychology. How would you solve a thing if you recognize that, oh yeah, no, this isn't just a problem for this group over here. This is why this is a problem for all of us. And yeah, I mean, I highly recommend go back, was it Letters from a Jail, read that, go watch the speeches and et cetera. I mean, it's just one of these people that just still holds up a lot. And, guess what? All of our heroes had flaws, but what he did as far as uniting people was wonderful. So anyhow, happy MLK Day. Gentlemen. Oh yeah, letter from a Birmingham jail. It's like, you could read it on Wikipedia, look that up. When you look at great literature as far as liberty and freedom and things like that, I mean, that's considered up there. I mean, it's just great. Anyhow, I digress. Let's talk about weird stuff.
Yes.
Weird stuff.
Agreed.
There was a super wolf blood tiger attack blue moon last night.
The super blood wolf moon.
Yeah.
Did you guys see it? Did you guys get a chance to see it last night?
Man, I was all like, you know what? I love me some stargazing and all that, and then
You're
I
big on
just
the
saw
moon.
how hazy it was, and I was
Oh,
like,
was it hazy over here?
yeah, it was.
Oh,
It was
that's a
hazy
bummer.
enough that I'm like, I'm not gonna try. Maybe I'll peek out and see it half gone. That'd be all right.
Justin or Angie, did you guys go see the super blood moon?
Oh, I did. I went to go watch when the Earth Shadow first started, and then went back out there and brought my girlfriend out there to go look at the red blood moon.
Yeah, no, I didn't. It was cloudy.
And then I went on Twitter and said, if you want your moon to come back, pay me 10,000 Bitcoin.
Yeah, I was surprised.
I have encrypted your moon. It is unbreakable. If you want it back, you must pay in Bitcoin.
My favorite one of those now is, have you got the one that's like, we know you've been watching porn?
Oh, we just got one of those to the Night Attack email.
Did we?
Yeah.
I know.
I sent him back. I was like, we don't even have Facebook. Get a life, loser.
Well, this one is like, we know you're watching porn, and then it's like, my favorite is like, deposit, this much Bitcoin to here.
Yeah.
And then it says, if you need more time, just type like 48 hours, please, in your Notepad app, and we'll know.
In your Notepad app?
We just got.
Because they've hacked my whole computer, guys.
Yeah, you've been totally pwned.
Yeah.
We've gotten a different letter from a different email address saying, this is my last warning, mail@nightattack.tv. You have the last chance to save your social life. I am not kidding.
It's like, dude, I don't think you understand what level of crazy you're up against. Like we preemptively have pushed out the press releases of all the darkest, most embarrassing stuff.
Yeah, of all the like, what are you gonna do? Promo for our albums?
So this sort of segues into, I wanted to talk again about a little bit about deep fakes, because that's a thing that's sort of working its way up into Washington now. There's concern politically about this, and lawmakers are sort of considering this. Deep fakes is the ability to generate extremely realistic images of people doing things they're not, pasting photos or faces of people onto other, videos. And it's getting better and better. And, we've talked a bit before about like, well, we're going to see a bunch, we've already seen celebrity deep fakes, and we're going to see more of that. And, I think we may see, somebody go through a YouTube channel, grab somebody's face, and then make a kind of a convincing sort of version of, somebody, and say, I've got this video of you doing this, pay me or I release it. But they're talking about, hey, what happens when terrorists start to use it? And let's say they start, let's say that ISIS wants to makes deep fakes of what look like American soldiers committing atrocities, and this is the way it's, phrased in Washington, whatever, and that this could have really serious ramifications, and we're going to see the weaponization of it. Now, as this weekend and this last, the news cycles have shown us, we are all very responsible. We wait 2 days or so to get all of the facts before we rush to judge. We hear all sides of of something, public opinions, whatever, before we rush to judge. I'm not too worried about that, how we'll handle it. And that,
I swear, if anybody has not read John Ronson's "So You've Been Publicly Shamed," please read that. That's an amazing book that in vivid detail highlights the horrors of what happens when just our biology causes us to snap to judgment on things. Yeah. This feeling that, we have to do something, and so we hurl rocks, and then Justine Sacco's name becomes synonymous with exactly one thing.
And it's powerful. Like I don't need to get into events of what happened this weekend, but you first hear it, and I'm like, oh man, that's outrageous. I need to say something too and make it clear that that we won't stand for that. I feel this. I feel that the urge to not realizing, hey, wait, I might be in a mob. I may not have all the facts. But anyhow, but deep fakes and stuff, we're going to get more abilities to make us outraged. We can take things out of context now or not give you a fuller picture, and we're ready to get extremely angry or whatever. Reporters have been taken by stuff, and we get a lot of noise trying to find out the truth of matters. Now, what's the future like, guys?
Well, I wonder. I have always thought that technology and our ability to make things fraudulent has tended to go hand in hand with our ability to detect fraudulence. That as Photoshop has become more and more sophisticated, so has our ability to detect Photoshop. However, I do think that there's certainly a case to say that, well, what happens when everybody believes it for 24 hours? What happens when everybody believes it for 48 hours? What happens when a major media outlet stakes their reputation on saying that this is real for 48 hours before eventually admitting it, or never admitting it at all, saying that there certainly are parts of it that are absolutely still real? We've seen echoes of that in the past, like Dan Rather on CBS. But when it's as visceral as something like this, who knows? It will certainly shape public opinion, and considering where sometimes our threshold for stuff like this is, like, how far are we right now from being able to do something like, let's say the Mitt Romney 43%, kind of clip, right? Like something that is intentionally, like, you understand by its context is degraded and maybe not a perfect thing, and yet it would be enough that it would now become like, all right, well, this was sent to us from a reputable source, or a source that made sense. The person in the video denies that it was ever said, but of course they would. It's, something that is embarrassing to them.
Well, there's that, but also, we've seen recent things of reporters reporting on things and saying, I saw this, whatever. And that's one of the problems too, is that, somebody could say, we may not have the opportunity to examine the actual video or audio or whatever firsthand as an audience, but we might be told by people who are gatekeepers of information, yes, we've seen this, we can confirm this. And I don't think our ability to be able to, it doesn't, I mean, there's, yes, we can detect stuff sort of, but there's going to be a point where we can't. But also the damage it does before then can be really significant.
Well, yeah, I mean that's what I was saying while you were doing.
So we get, like, right now we're in a place where I think we are realizing that, oh crap, our ability to shape our own news feeds has placed us all into bubbles, and now we are realizing to our horror that is a highly manipulable place to be. Essentially, we have no immunity against outside ideological contagions coming in and using our siloed nature against us. So I think we're seeing some steps in what I think is heading in the right direction. For example, if you go to Google News, there's now a constant tab off to the right that is nothing but fact checking. Like I would have to imagine that these are in general not very popular articles, but just no matter what, they're always, this is the latest round of fact checking on everything. That seems like a good step in the right direction. Mm-hmm. I wonder, we've talked before about, as we get closer to an age where we get to choose the nature of our artificially intelligent concierges, if we can say, no, I want somebody who's going to be a hothead and move fast, or somebody who says, no, I want somebody who's going to keep me from to reduce my chances of saying something in public that'll embarrass me later. Like I wonder, is just as AI is almost certainly going to be part of the problem as this becomes weaponized. They're going to be AIs, your Cambridge Analyticas or whatever, that are going to figure out this is the right flashpoint moment. Whether you do or do not do something, the whole world will blow up over the idea of this thing. If you fake it, it will cause, people will decide to go to war or whatever. Likewise, those AIs, I would like to believe, can also act as antibodies to stop us from overreacting when those attempts are made.
Yeah, sure. I think that would be neat. I think until then, I think the tools like fact check are helpful. They're prone to bias, but they're another layer of let's ask questions about this, which is helpful. But I also think that, I try not to be reactionary on Twitter. Like, I almost never talk about current events or news or stuff, because years of teaching critical thinking, I realized that the take you have in 24 hours is not going to have all the facts. I don't talk about stuff because, to be honest, I don't want to look like an ass 24 hours later, and I care about that. I do it naturally enough, and I can't tell you how many times we end this podcast, and I'm like, why did I go there? Why did I say this? And that's why, but. I don't know. I think that do we need to maybe kind of start indicting hot take culture?
Well, hold on. I do think that something that you brought up is the fascinating and I think more effective idea where this would happen, where it's not necessarily that the video goes viral and nobody can tell even for a short amount of time, like 12 hours, 24 hours, 72 hours, something like that. The most realistically damaging thing would be that it fools one person, and one person then says to a reporter, I saw this video, I can describe it to you, I can play it for you, I can't let you see it, but for whatever reason, the demand for that news is so high, the concept that thing could be around is so interesting that then that report gets made. And so we're not seeing any of the facts. We're not seeing any of the video. But now solidified in our culture is there exists a video that this happens in. Like,
yeah,
that to me is something that would happen. I could see that happening now.
Oh yeah, oh sure, and I guess we're not really talking directly about the Covington Catholic School kids thing. What happened this weekend? go do your own dive into that if anybody who's curious.
I think we very specifically stayed away from that.
Yeah, I would say go do, but but it's one of these things where there's lots of commentary, lots of videos. Now we had started with one, and then you watch. There are tons of phones there, but the first one to go out there with the story gets to sort of start the narrative, and that gets to be the narrative for a while, and then it gets more complicated. We'll just put it like that, and that's the thing. I could see we could live in an age where somebody could take make a deep fake of Kamala Harris saying something she never said, and I could see that running in the first 6-8 hours in right-wing media going ballistic over this sort of thing, and damage could be done before we find out, oh wait, no, this didn't happen, and then we'll get the retaliation against the GOP, and that's my concern.
I do think though that the general DNA of how we've seen reaction to fraud is more like the Dan Rather thing than something that is controversial if misunderstood. There tends to be a reckoning for
I guess what I'm like, the thing that happened this week and the thing that's scary is that, and again, there were 30 kids who got doxxed, and one kid in particular who wasn't even there, who looked like a kid, who started getting death threats, right?
Yes.
And that's my concern. That's the scare, is that you get a whack job who shows up at a pizza parlor because he believes it's some sort of secret DNC controlled pedophile ring, and here you get every side's crazy. Let me make that clear. And that's my concern, is that we can, in the longer thing, truth will out. But man,
yeah, I think we're talking about a couple different things. We're because I do think that we are now circling more of a conversation about how do we handle news? How do we report news? How do we want to put it into silos? How do we want, what is our professional decorum?
I guess what I'm saying is that things like deep fakes are going to give us the ability to create things that are extremely emotionally charged, that you can take one thing and show somebody look at it from one point of view right now that happened, that nobody thinks that was manipulated, and everybody has a world of opinions about it. Now we're getting to the phase where I could just outright show you doing something horrible or just mildly horrible, and that's my concern.
In a world where it is indetectable, then yes, we have a fundamental redrawing of what we believe that we have to deal with if and when it gets to a point where it is undetectable. That being said, I don't know. Maybe it's just certainly there have been Tempest in a Teapot brought up over photoshopped images. There's been controversies created based on things that were then proven to be false. So this would not be a new concept. We've seen situations like this before when we had less checks and balances on newspapers and television news and stuff like that. I don't know. My hope is that as technology gives us this black magic to create totally fictitious images that are literally that cannot be told from the genuine article, that we also have different ways that we categorize these things, and we have different ways that we could debunk them, just by sharing all of our information.
Well, and I think that was my original response is just as, yes, we're dealing with a new type of contagion, but my hope in the form of AI weaponizing, using the data, knowing what will be the exact right hot button to press and the exact right image that'll make everyone lose their mind, and then after the fact, maybe it can be timed with a certain political decision being made or whatever. It is also my hope that algorithmically we build these ideological antigens, which this is something in the Harari book, Sapiens and Homo Deus, where there's going to come a time that we don't even trust other humans. We don't even trust our own minds, and instead we're going to rely on
That should be
sophisticated
now.
AIs. Yeah.
It should be now that we don't trust. I mean that's the thing is that I speaking with myself in my own mind.
Right.
But would you,
gentlemen?
that actually, for me, what is the difference between these two ideas, though? Rather, trusting human creation or trusting an algorithm to sort information? Because we already have instances of algorithms trying to replace human journalist efforts, but these algorithms are not perfect and have their own biases.
Oh, Bryce, 100. That's part of the problem is that the algorithms we trust don't belong to us. We go to a Google page, and those are the algorithms that Google chooses. And ideally, they want truthfulness in news, but their primary goal is ad dollars. Facebook the same way. That's we live in a world where we're trusting algorithms that don't belong to us, code we don't control. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of a growing concern among some AI researchers is that, we in the future we want it like Brian's version where we have our own, but what we may get is, these are provided to us by people who have agendas that our interests and their interests are not completely in alignment.
Right. Like it's different than, say, having a hard drive versus saving everything on the cloud, because most people are not going to be able to code their own artificial intelligence program, and they're going to, on some level, have to rely on someone else's code.
How far off are you guys from being okay with, I guess, insurance against ideological corruption as a service? And this is a terrible phrasing for it, but the idea, if I could pay some amount of money, $100 a year, like I've gotten very comfortable with using NordVPN. It's very cheap and affordable and doesn't slow anything down. And I like the idea that in general I'm not being tracked. I think that as a result, I get closer to a neutral, non-biased, I feel less manipulated as a result because I see fewer of the targeted ads and so on. I wonder how much more I would pay for kind of a low grade, constantly on, hey, just FYI, you're only seeing this article because you fit this ideological profile. Could be that this is going to manipulate you in one way or the other, or likewise, or maybe the service, keeps me from even seeing the article, where it's like, you decide, look, I want to see it, but only if it hits a threshold of in X number of days, it is confirmed as definitely, not a fraud or not a scam or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what that looks like.
Number one, I think that you are definitely onto something. If we live in a culture where for a while people were using whatever that soft hack was to check out their Uber star rating, like the idea that you would be able to go to a site or pay for a service that would then spit back to you what the algorithms believe you are is something that I think would be of tremendous interest to people. The question then is, what is the service that you build on top of that? Because that's like you correctly identified the curiosity. What do they think of me? Because by the way, just saying, I've been seeing an ad that says what all cheaters do, and it has a woman texting on a phone while her husband is sleeping, and I'm like, I gotta start fucking tracking Ashley's phone.
Yeah.
I've seen that ad too.
Well, and what's funny is it could be that all of that is meant really to encourage you to go get yourself checked out at a low testosterone clinic, right? Like they just know that sowing seeds of doubt for anyone in their mid 30s or whatever yields a higher susceptibility to
it
messaging.
Makes you go to Roman or
exactly. Exactly.
Though
I will know
say
the names. I've seen that thing, like, and sometimes I want to click on things in like a anonymous browsers just because I'm like, yeah, what are they trying to sell me here? And something, when you see something like that, you got to bet it's probably some subscription service or something, But it is like this provocative woman looking at you look secretly like, what did cheaters do? And I'm like, this is an awful person. This is an awful thing that I think you're offering. This is wrong, and like they have like, look up anybody, it'll blow and prepare to gasp. I'm like, who's that creepy?
Yeah.
A lot of people apparently. So
well, enough people that they're going to build a business model on it.
Well, and so I think the second part to what you were describing, Justin, is first, I think we want to know, like, who is it you think I am? Then the next layer is, after an analysis, like, well, okay, from these are all the algorithm's assumptions about you. Which of these do you want to shape and fix? For example, the algorithms are treating you as somebody who's very red team, blue team, very willing to instantly react with outrage and participate. Now, if you're comfortable with that, then great. But here are some historical reasons where that's not turned out great and that you actually play into the hands of people who are working against your interests. Would you like to alter your input feed in such that it reduces the possibility that you do this? Because in other words, like, it's like, you are somebody who cannot bench press 200 pounds. Would you like to become somebody who can bench press 200 pounds? Well, here is the long-term 6-month plan where I will feed you stuff that will get you to that place. Only ideologically becoming stronger and being able to bench press more.
So that's the question. The question is, once you find out what the algorithms believe you are, is determining how much of that, even beyond whether or not it's real, right? How much you want to be real versus how much you want to change based on that idea. I mean, it does kind of get into a really fascinating idea of like, who knows you better? Google or your best friend? Google or your mom? Like, in terms of like,
it's like I think what I would like is I don't mind the idea of paying an AI ideological nutritionist to keep me healthier. I'm not snacking on junk food.
So past that, let's say you understand a thing that it's like, Brian, look, the algorithm knows.
Can I just let me interject? Like, have you gone to we've talked about this before, the Google page where it shows you how their ads are targeted, and you can turn it off.
Yes.
Well, go ahead. Sorry.
But
no. I think the larger idea is, let's understand that this could be of value. Like, that this is something that it's like, even if you understand that this profile is being built so they can target me ads, you can then take that data and say, okay, well, what of this? Let's imagine that Google is like a friend, like a family member that's going to sit down with you at Thanksgiving and tell you, you want to know what your problem is? This, that, and the other. One of those conversations that change your life. And you look at your life and you're like, oh, wow, is that how I'm seen? I need to make sure that I'm bigger. I need to make sure that I'm better. I need to make sure that I'm emotionally more well off. Then you can take that data, even if it's cynically collected, maybe even better because it's cynically collected, and then say, okay, well, how can I create my own AI that then shapes where I'm going, as opposed to just telling me where I am?
I only respond to ads with coupons for Arby's. And again, that comes back to, what the intent is and the incentive is for who provides it. Now, Apple started their Apple News on their phone, which I never use, but the goal of Apple News is to provide you news, and then the advertisements or whatever they do there, they're not supposed to be using tracking. Like, the idea is they don't want to use tracking. So it's in Apple, like with a Safari has been doing a lot of stuff to anonymize the way stuff works and to try to make it very difficult. And this has been, people in the ad industry complained, complained about Apple thwarting their attempts to track people across different websites, et cetera. But, and that's the reason Apple does it, because Apple's incentive is charging us much more for our hardware and whatever versus being an ad company. And, the trade-offs are for each of us to decide. But we only, I don't use Chrome's incognito mode because it's from Google, and I love Google products, but I think Google will do what the bullet point says, but they're not going to tell me really what goes on.
Yeah, even if it's anonymized, like everything you type into Google, every half-written word, and then you back up and undo it, like all of that is known.
Yeah, like for me, when we found out, and then we knew this, that they were tracking people back at using Safari in anonymous mode, we found out that Google had had a workaround to track people doing that. I was kind of like, my trust in you's gone. Like I like a lot of your products. I think your company is amazing in some ways, but my trust in you's gone. And now Facebook is going through this problem. We've talked about that. They're trying to repair the relationship, et cetera. And, because I don't think they realized how much they could damage their brand, and not to say that they're suffering, but certainly they're looking at the growth, particularly young people. It's not where they want it to be.
Well, I think part of it is for them, they thought this was a settled issue and people didn't care about targeting. That they're like, oh, this is what we do. This is what we do. It's all available. It's not like we're hiding it. We're making sure that you get the ads that you want. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. And all of a sudden, everybody cares. But a lot of it was just their populace becoming more tech literate. And
well, there was just a survey that came out that found out most people don't know that don't even realize that ad tracking is a thing.
Oh yeah.
Most people still don't realize that. I don't know. Anyhow, speaking of not tracking you.
Yeah. One thing, and then we'll get into the plug. The one thing that I always remember about the lagging understanding of technology on average. I was on a subway in New York City. I was reading some newspaper, and I remember reading that for the first time, and this had to be in 2006, dial-up had been replaced by DSL and cable as the predominant form of internet access. And I had DSL or cable from high school on, and it's like, oh no, that's what the world just moves a lot slower than we tend to think of it. And it's like, it doesn't surprise me that a lot of people don't know what ad tracking is.
If you want to control your ad experience during this podcast, weird things, you can do that. How would I do that?
Man, go ahead, Brian. You
would hit the 30-second. You would hit the 30-second skip button starting right now. But no, man. Look, you keep us loud, live, and independent by heading over to patreon.com/weirdthings. And of course, as of what, a couple weeks ago, we that's straight up just split 4 ways. Finally, Bryce can make good money, much more than a nickel for every dollar that you contribute. 25 cents. But most importantly, if you want to support our shenanigans, there is a big PSA happening right now. Tomorrow, as we're recording this, the 5th Night Attack comedy album comes out. It's called All's Well, and it is a celebration.
Oh, Brian, how will this support my shenanigans? I'm excited to hear this.
You'll be friends with 2 guys who have had a third number 1 comedy album.
Will I be delighted and laugh?
Well, yes, 100%. Okay. Dude, no, guys, Justin, do you have the words to express how proud we are of this latest offering?
Look, it is great because not only does it feature us, it features somebody more talented than us, and that is Stephen Cogswell. He is a brilliant musician in Canada who, for the last 3 years, every week without fail, has created a song based on audio from the previous week's Night Attack. We combined the best work that he has done with original comedy, and man, it's something that I think is not only a tribute to him, it's a tribute to everybody who has gone that extra mile and made that piece of art for your favorite podcast, YouTube series, web forum, just all that creativity. This is our tribute to that, and I hope everybody enjoys it, and apparently can enjoy it now if you're in Australia. Apparently, we are live in Australia, where it is already the 22nd. So we are rolling into that as we speak.
I'm trying to buy this. When do I press the button to buy?
You press buy on when it becomes January 22nd. So if you're in Australia, apparently right now, although I'm going back and forth with our rep to make sure it's at the right price. But go ahead and check it out when it is January 22nd. We will have it available.
Oh, okay. So I go to what? Tower of Music? That's where I'm going to go?
iTunes, Amazon, Google. Likely iTunes will be the place where it is correctly priced. The problem is we are rare in the music industry in that we are eschewing money. We are telling them we don't want money. We just want credit. So we're doing it for exposure, except nobody's making us. We're doing it ourselves for exposure. So effectively, we're a problem child because they have to. All these platforms need to understand that we're not here to make money, and we're trying to sell it for literally nothing.
Basically, instead of spending $12 for an album, we'd rather charge $4 for an album and have your passion and energy, but have you buy it 3 times on 3 different platforms. And because you know what, 1,000 people can punch a lot harder hole into the universe if they buy everything 3 times.
And then we will look. Bought albums matter. Purchased albums matter. Please purchase the album everywhere that you can. For the first time ever, though, this will also be on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal. So if you don't want to buy it on the platform where it's listed correctly and you have one of those, literally just play the album all day. Hit play, leave your phone, come on back, hit play again.
Nice. I'm excited, guys. I'm excited.
God, it's really funny. We did have a total scare. One of my favorite tracks, only very last minute did I was like, hey, where's that one track? That's my favorite. And this is like the day of submission. And Justin's like, oh, is that not on there? And there's like, oh crap, it's not on there. So thank goodness.
In fact, I cut a track that had passed. I made an executive decision because at the point of submission that we were at, it would have added another day for me to go back to CD Baby to up the track count. So I had to make a call on cutting a track. And that track that was on the album, approved on the album and got cut.
That fluff that didn't need to be there.
No, it was a hard one, man. It's a very funny track about where we, for whatever reason, are very mean to Kevin Bacon. But
that one got cut.
It got cut because the one that I like, the one that we forgot better. But that is available. You can listen to that right now if you go to our Discord or you go to my SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/Justin R. Young. There's a big playlist of things that literally barely did not make the album because we wanted to make it as tight as possible.
I'm excited, guys. I'm going to buy that. And I'm going to support my fellow weird thingers.
Yes.
Yes. Do. You know what I think you guys should do after you celebrate the success of the album?
What's that?
And the generous, huge financial rewards you'll get, well, minus your cuts and everything else like that. But anyhow, I think you guys should go back to nature. Get away from podcasting. Get away from your gadgets. Get away from all of that. I think a nice stroll to appreciate the wonders of nature. You know, just all of the beauty. Everything's like, when was the last time you stood outside, let raindrops fall on your nose? When have you just stood out there and let the morning sun come up and feel the healing rays strike your skin? I breathed in a cool mist.
This sounds like somebody trying to describe the beauty of nature who's never experienced it. But sure, yeah. It's been far too long. I know that for sure.
Yeah,
Ryan, I can see nature through the slit between my blackout shades in my apartment
it's
here.
Like bags
I know
of
it's
sand.
there.
Got it. Yeah.
I suggest for you guys to experience all the wonders and majesty of nature. Bryce, do you have a video that we could show them? Perhaps they could, walk outside and see this delightful experience of.
Sure.
Well, I don't know what we'd call it.
Well,
yeah.
Let's just hop on a plane really quick and fly to Brazil. I believe.
Okay.
I believe is where
beautiful Brazil,
beautiful.
known for rainforests, beautiful beaches. Brazilian people are some of the most fun people in the world. I'll say that. You can call me a nationalist, whatever, but I just said it.
Sure. Okay. So we're gonna just take a real quick look at Brazil here, Brian. Look at
those. Okay, just don't play it yet. We're looking up at the sky. Big, thick raindrops falling all around. That nice sky that's just sort of the slate gray going over the green hills.
I mean, it seems lovely. It seems like it looks maybe a little bit like the opening of the movie Flash Gordon, where rocks are falling from the sky. But
looks a little overcast. I mean, certainly the rolling hills, the emerald green, inspiring, but it looks like there's maybe something. Yeah, there's stuff in the air, Andrew.
It's just the lighting angle.
Oh, are you sure?
Well, thank goodness. Then I suppose there'll be nothing horrific if we hit play on this very innocuous video.
All right, here we go. We're gonna hit play. Brian.
What
pause,
a miracle!
pause.
Those raindrops are suspended in midair. They're just floating in there as if by some sort of magic.
Those don't look like raindrops.
They're looking biggy and floaty and.
What are they doing? Can you describe what's
hovering? And it's like, and I don't see wings. It seems like things in the sky should have wings. Is it possibly? It starts to look like maybe we're looking through a window, and the window is covered with bugs that are just sort of hanging out on there.
Brian obviously doesn't know anything about nature.
I mean, I guess. Justin, what does this read as to you?
Yeah, I don't know. It does look like they're just suspended there, but they are jittering about a little bit. Like they are kind of. It does look like a
jitterbugs. They're elderly people.
But
jitterbugging.
Not the actual bug, the phone.
Yeah. Okay. Man, I can't tell if it's the parallax seems slightly off. At one point, the camera moves, and everything shifts in a way that makes me think that they're not way up in the sky. They're just close, and these are bugs or spiders or something.
Well, we'll use the term rain. Rain's beautiful. Rain's something that, companies that make things like, I don't know, skin soaps and shampoos, things of rain. Rains just sound so nice. We'll just call it rain.
Sure. What is it raining, Andrew?
Nature.
You're not wrong. Okay. It's raining bugs or eggs or I swear to God, if it's snakes, this guy, no. It's oh my goodness. I don't know what I'm looking at. It looks like a bunch of fleas. It looks like fleas on a window.
Okay. Well,
Brian, you know what it is.
Spiders, isn't it? It's always spiders.
Spiders. It's raining spiders.
It rained spiders?
Yeah. So basically what they've done is they've they get this in, actually Australia too, but in Brazil, basically thousands of spiders have created webs that go from canopy to canopy all across there. And so they're kind of like hanging out, and then every now and then maybe they just drop on down and say hello, but basically you'd be surrounded by spiders everywhere.
Okay.
So these spiders are on the canopies that they've created are suspended in midair, and that's kind of what has this look of them being in the sky.
The surreality of it. Yeah, so I guess
Cirque du Soleil spider.
It now I can sort of see it. If you imagine an invisible mesh network of spider webs everywhere, then it makes sense that the whole sky is just hovering spiders above you.
This is my favorite headline, Smithsonian.com, that rag. It's raining spiders in Brazil. A video captures images of 1,000 spiders raining down on a Brazilian town, but it turns out this event is perfectly normal.
Aw.
I mean, for you, person writing on Smithsonian.com, I'm here trying to deal with the fallout of my Airbnb prices in Spider Villa.
Maybe you're just selling to the wrong people. Turn that bug into a feature, so to speak.
That's it. You'll be guaranteed to be surrounded by spiders at all times in this gigantic infestation that comes from all angles.
I sent Bryce another video that spins around and shows more of this, and listen. We already talked about the fact that if the spiders wanted to eat people, spiders would win. There's more spiders. The spiders are perfectly capable of eating us all in like a year, So.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, this is definitely the end of oh God.
Oh God damn it!
Someone describe it.
That's a fat bug.
Yeah, no, this is the end of Kingdom of the Spiders with William Shatner, like made life. Wow.
So this is just a gigantic. This is like the Great Web of China. Like this is just gigantic.
Oh God,
Imagine
it's
being
horrific.
a real estate agent trying to show off a house in that neighborhood.
Although I got to
How
tell
did
you,
he not just take a flamethrower to this place?
Well, where are the birds? That's what I'm saying. You know, we got to deal with their squawking, waking us up, you know, and all this. Like, do your job, birds.
well, I feel like next it's got to be a cloud. I mean, number one,
It's a big old spider. Good God.
I gotta
These are
believe.
not tiny spiders. These are big, fat 18-wheeler spiders doing big spider business.
Oof. Good news is I have to imagine there are very few mosquitoes about. Like outside of all the spiders everywhere. Oh my God, it really is. It's raining spiders.
They are to illustrate this. They have taken over this telephone pole, and are hanging, dripping.
Oh my God,
hundreds of them.
The chills that are running up and down my spine. This is horrifying.
They're launching spam campaigns. They've plugged into the information grid. It's all over. Next up is going to be a swarm of birds, the likes of which you've never seen, followed by a swarm of cats, followed by a swarm of old ladies who love cats. It's all downhill from here.
Yeah, this is one of those things where somebody's going to want to introduce the invasive species, right? Like that. It's like, oh, we'll get the number one spider eater is some aardvark, and then the aardvarks will go wild and
call in the Vark. He was like, hey, man, I told you I don't do that anymore. I just fix pickup trucks. Listen, Vark, we need you. Hey, I haven't been called that in a long time.
You know I wouldn't call you if I wasn't desperate.
There's always another spider that needs eaten. I've had my fill, I tell you.
I want to take our attention away from spiders now. And I want to show you something kind of cool. It's relaxed, no spiders. Well, there's technically no spiders in this one.
Oh.
You ever think about light speed? Just think about light speed, like how fast is light speed?
Yeah, I'm told it's pretty fast. Can't think of anything faster than it. Except gossip, am I right?
Right. So I found this really cool, an article where a guy went out and created some graphics showing you light speed. How long does it take light to go around the Earth? Light traveling from the Earth to the moon. And just as a way to visualize this, light going from Earth to Mars. So here we're watching a beam of light go around a globe, and it gives you an idea of 7.5 orbits per second. Right?
7 laps around the Earth per second. Okay, I can almost wrap my mind around that.
Now let's go look at the moon.
I think that's 2 seconds, right? It's 2 seconds to get there?
1.25 seconds surface to surface.
Okay.
So we're watching like a ping pong ball go between the Earth and the moon. It's in air. Boop. Left the moon, hit Earth. Boop. Moon, boop. Earth.
Yeah.
So all I could see, this is the moment where Doom breaks down, and you're not going to have a good game of Doom because your lag will be 1.25 seconds. You could still play Hearthstone though. That's fine.
But looking at that and seeing, like, man, this is the fastest thing. You can't go faster than that. And you're like, wow, you can't go faster than that, you know? Now let's go to Mars.
Oh, I know this one. This one, depending on the time of year, 15 minutes?
3 minutes.
This is its closest, which is at 3 minutes, 2 seconds.
Oh, my God.
So, Girl from Ipanema's playing. We're
just watching.
You know.
You can't even play Hearthstone.
The data's so bad.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. Hey, Brian, what's like an average episode of Modern Rogue?
About 5 to 15 minutes. So
you're not even to the ad. You're not even to the NordVPN ad by the time that you arrive on Mars.
Yeah, you're not kidding, man. And but the good news is when I hit send, it'll be 3 minutes and 2 seconds before I get my first hateful comments in response.
No, they'll just send them ahead of time, Brian. You know, now imagine looking at that little text bubble, waiting to see what they're going to write, and then it just vanishes. You're like, gosh.
The entire time we've been talking, that point of light has only made it halfway to Mars. That's amazing.
Yeah, think about too is that we've mentioned this before. Like when we're gonna want to talk to our friends on Mars when we send Bryce there. It's gonna be in text messages. It's gonna be in little videos. It's gonna be little video and sound bites and stuff. We're not gonna be. I mean, this show's gonna be really hard.
We're gonna send letters. It's going to be a throw. Oh, here's an interesting thing. How quick before somebody starts selling the idea of virtual conversations with AI proxies that after the fact they'll correct and match what the person like we're predictable creatures, right? So imagine like you could write a letter, wait the 15 minutes for it to deliver, wait for the 15 minutes to get a letter back or whatever, and that would be accurate but very slow communication. Or I could turn on virtual Andrew, we could talk, and then and both avatars are factoring in giving most likely answers that each party is going to do, and then on important stuff clarifying and shaping the conversation, so it feels almost real time.
That's all fun and good until you get into a fight with your friend's AI or your family member's AI. Like, because now you have a question of, okay, well, I just got into a fight with your AI, like based on most likely things that you would say. Is that real? Is it not real? Should we weight the AI to be nicer maybe than?
Well, the challenge is going to be, like Brian brought up earlier, the idea of having AIs to sort of help us be better or be smarter. Is that, well, am I going to have my AI with my short temper?
Well, but think about this. None of us will have to actually apologize anymore, because it's like just the slider will be like, hey, AI, just be really fast to apologize. Just eat all the garbage and say it's always your fault. But don't make me watch or listen to it. so I don't have to feel that.
Hey, Brian, a lot of Brian's views of the future is plausible deniability.
It's the most Brian thing ever. It's just, I need an AI to tell me what to do and make me never apologize. The future's here.
Yes.
My favorite was I brought up when I went to one of the Nick Bostrom horror stories about AI is like, what if it just puts us on our brains on a dish and just triggers our pleasure sensors? They take us over and we're vats just having our pleasure sensors triggered nonstop. And Brian's like, okay.
Sounds great, man. Sounds like a world where I'm just ecstatic all the time.
But Brian, you're everything else. I wouldn't care, would I? I'm like, well, no. All right then.
By definition, I'm loving it. McDonald's promise made real.
We're getting more and more headlines though about like uploading, being able to save your brain to a computer chip, which is a complete, BS right now.
Yeah.
But and there's the people like, oh well, when you upload, it's not you. Like, well, that's why we talk a lot about side loading here. The idea of like have that thing working concurrently, dealing with stuff, and then updating me, and then maybe backing some memories up. And because I was thinking about this the other day, like I have you have that period where you're talking and you're like, oh, what's the name of that actor? And it takes you 8 seconds later and you remember the name, and like, man, and it's there, but it's just which valley that's memory stored in. Having that little prompt tells you that.
Well,
sounds good to me. Right?
Even you're wearing your augmented reality glasses, and the AI is listening and can tell in the first 3 words of your sentence, based on your past history of the way you talk, where you're likely headed with this point, and then starts displaying the name before you even get to that valley part. Like I know what story you're about to tell. You're gonna want to say Ed Harris.
Yeah, I want one that tells me to shut up. You've already told them the story. I'm at that point. I want one that's like, you're about to explain something you've already explained. You're in the car. You're like, Justin and I have this, and we'll start going like, wait, this was conversation number 382, wasn't it?
I think Andrew. There was a point in Florida where I think Andrew and I reached the end of the internet with each other's brains. Like we got to a point where it was just like, man, you spend that much time with somebody, you're gonna know literally every story in their lives.
Yeah.
I liked it though. It was fun. It was cool.
Yeah, that's what it was. Hey, what are you, some picks?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. My pick is All's Well, the new comedy album from Night Attack, debuting tomorrow on the 22nd. Hey, listen, sometimes the price will be right. Sometimes it won't be fixed. If you have the money, then throw it at us. If you want to wait and buy it many times on many platforms, you can wait for the price to go down. But know that a targeted strike really matters, and if we hit number one on all three platforms, it pretty much guarantees us having a number one Billboard comedy album, which is the greatest gift we could give Stephen Cogswell, the greatest gift to music. We don't give a rat's ass about the money. We only want to reward the hardest, most talented of fans in all of chat realm.
Yeah. 100.
Very, very magnanimous of you guys.
Yes. All's Well, a Night Attack album available on the 22nd, which is tomorrow for most of you. I do have another pick, though.
Oh, okay.
I watched the Netflix version of the Fire Festival doc. This, I believe, is just Fire, right? The Netflix one is just called Fire. The other one's Fire Fraud.
It's Fire, the greatest party that never happened.
Okay. It is a pretty great doc in that, like, I thought I knew I was getting into it, getting into with it, and it did an effective job of peeling back the layers beyond just like, oh, well, how could something go wrong, to understanding a little bit more about this guy that put it together. And it's got some great anecdotes. There's one about releasing the water they were going to use on the island. That is, I can't imagine what it was like getting that dude to tell that story on camera in the way that he did. Just awesome.
Wait, what was it that he said? Because I did watch it. I don't remember the water story, though, because I watched both of them back to back.
Man, I don't even know if I want to give it away.
Okay, all right.
He says he was called upon to make sure that the water got released by a government agent, and he was willing to do
story. Yes,
everything,
yes, this is a great story.
Everything possible, including a very specific charge that he was given.
Oh my god. Yeah. I strongly encourage you to watch the Hulu one as well.
Fire Fraud.
Yeah, we were going to, and then we just kind of ran out of time. But that's definitely the next thing that we want to do. What was your favorite amongst the two?
I don't know how much of it was the order in which I watched it, but I think the Hulu one was better. Did you watch both, Bryce?
No, I only saw the Hulu one, and I didn't get a chance to watch the Netflix one. But I really liked that they actually had the creator, the not Ja Rule creator of the Fire Festival. They got an interview with him, and they seemed like they put the screws to him pretty decently in the Hulu one.
You know what's interesting is that the way the two document, I haven't seen either, but the way the two of them worked is one of them worked with the guy who put it on to get permission to use some photos and stuff like this or whatever for that. The other one worked with one of the ad agencies that was in charge of promoting the Fire Festival to get their access. So both of them have, and that may have affected the kind of coverage where, the ones that worked with the organizer kind of were like, well, let's make an indictment of that. But overall, the culture around what's going on, and then the business or whatever, and then the other one, it's sort of the different perspectives on it based upon who was their source for that.
I'll say the Hulu one definitely focuses more, from my understanding, focuses more on the McFarlane guy, and I don't think it paints him in a good light, even though knowing that Hulu said that they paid him for.
Oh no! Did they pay him or did they pay the ad agency?
The Hulu one paid him for his interview, and Netflix let the ad agency partner produce their movie.
I'm curious to know. I'm curious to see the Hulu one, because having watched the Netflix one, I don't know really even what the worth of having an interview with that guy is, considering the stuff that is there. Yeah, he is certainly going to say words, but man, if there's not a fairly clear case to be made that he is a dead-eyed fraud sociopath.
The funny part about watching both of them are when they both dip into the common pool of media, like some of the Instagrams,
The social
that
media
were
posts,
so it's like it's kind of awesome to hear the same story just told two different ways, and I would love for there to be more experiences like this where you could get two versions of it and you're like, oh yeah, I know this part because I've heard this story.
Here's the only thing that I found a little stupid about the Netflix one is that like they tend to lean into like, oh wow, you want to know what though? This guy was kind of a Pied Piper. He kind of figured out how to make an event that would make millennials care, that really whipped up a bunch of attention and so much free press. And it's like, yeah. You know, the easiest way to make $1 million is to have $1 billion and fritter it away. Like he wrote 1 million checks he couldn't cash. And even if you had that amount of money to spend on that, the idea that the juice would be worth the squeeze is probably negligible. Like that's not amazing. That's not new. That doesn't make you a great brander or a marketer to just spend a bunch of money you don't have to, like, yes, if you had all the world at your fingertips, you could make an app. You could have a successful booking app, which is what he ultimately wanted to do.
Brian, you saw both of them. What I loved in the Hulu one was them talking about his career before the festival and like selling tickets to events and shows that he didn't have, like Hamilton tickets and the Super Bowl stuff. Did
just sort of figure it out as he goes along.
Yeah,
his Magnesis was his thing. This super exclusive,
black
badass VIP card that was just filled with promises. And then it was like, hey, you want tickets to Hamilton? We got them for $250. And you're like, that's not possible. I'll take a few. And then and then
he buys them on StubHub the night of or the night before,
just all the time, saying like, "Yeah, come on over. You'll get the VIP concierge experience."
Did the Hulu one get into like his early career stuff like that?
It's very difficult for me to remember which part. Magnesis is mentioned. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, basically, the Netflix one kind of saves the reveal on how, like, basically it lets you get through the 3/4 of the documentary, assuming that this is the story of a brilliant but over aggressive entrepreneur who everybody believes in and everybody thinks is great, who just flew a little bit too close to the sun, and maybe his drinking got in the way, and maybe they don't mention Coke, but look, they're on an island with supermodels. Let's just assume that maybe that kind of got in the way, and he burned out. And then about 3/4 of the way, they start talking about, oh yeah, like the fact that he's the visionary behind Magnesis, and then it's like, oh no, like nobody really went to these things, and a lot of people would buy these things, and then the perks would fall through, and he was basically just living off the largesse of the 1%.
The Hulu one has a very hard focus about like he's out on bail for fraud, and then and they have a whole section where it's just like, okay, of all the times to go right back and double down on everything that got you in trouble, because apparently, like, at first everybody, they were getting these emails, they're like, oh, you must have sold the fire list to somebody, and somebody else is trying to do it. We're like, nope, it was literally him
trying to promote something else to the people who bought tickets.
Exactly,
to the fire
literally
festival.
standing in the room feeding lines to somebody so it wouldn't sound like him, like, now tell him this, that, like, it's amazing.
He just did the Magnesis scam, but instead of making that the perks of why you should have his credit card, they made it the product and would just say, hey, we got a Taylor Swift meet and greet. Hey, we have Burning Man tickets. When they were Taylor Swift doesn't do meet and greets, and Burning Man tickets were not on sale, and he still racked up like 6 figures, like just doing that with 3 people in a room. Like, but again, that's the thing, is the story here, and I've not seen the Hulu one, but I do understand that it goes into a little bit more of a cultural focus, that there is a reason why there's a little bit of a late stage capitalism kind of element to it. But the story here is this is a fraud sociopath who just took in a bunch of people. He figured out the right people that he could tell the right things, and that was that. Like, there is, it was a fascinating story. I suggest people pay attention to it, but I thought the Netflix one was very, very well strung out in that, like, you think it's one story, and then you just realize, like, oh no, this guy is just he's trying to, he's the Music Man, but for Diplo.
So where do I get one of these Magnesis credit cards? Sounds like a great idea.
I have a pick. I a buddy of had given me a Christmas gift of one of those little those PlayStation Classics, those shrunk down PlayStations, and I was excited about it because I really like PlayStation growing up, but I was also excited because all of these classic mini consoles that have been made, people have like hacked them and done all sorts of stuff, and I was about to like dive into that process of like, do the thing and get the files and move them over here and do all this other stuff. When I realized that apparently that hack stuff was not as far as it was, but it reminded me of this really great piece of software, RetroArch. Do you guys know RetroArch?
Mm-mm.
So it's like an emulator hub, basically. So like it is a piece of software that has these different console cores. So there's like a PlayStation core and a Game Boy Advance core, and it acts like a mediator between all that stuff. And it was really cool because I had not ever done like any sort of emulation stuff since like in the past decade when emulators were a lot different. And so it was interesting to kind of see both something that was super like feature rich in that like it has like 1,000 save slots and like they have achievements built in. You could like download achievements for like these retro games. But the other cool thing that I really dug and took up a lot of my weekend is that they have RetroArch on like 1 million different platforms, including on the Switch. And so I definitely spent probably 10 hours this weekend playing Final Fantasy VIII on my Switch. And it's pretty cool, and it's one of those things where just doing it, like, it's not very complicated, but doing any sort of technology thing is just sort of a fun puzzle on its own. And so I really had a good time with that, and they like literally have these emulators available for like phones and tablets and all sorts of stuff. So if you own your own games and you know how to dump them, you should try RetroArch to play them.
Right on.
I have a pick. I'd watched the first Narcos series, which they did three seasons of, and then Netflix announced they're doing Narcos Mexico, and usually I'm always like, oh, I'll get around to it, then I'll get into it, and I always dig into it. And I thought Narcos, the original one, sometimes it could be a little soap opera-ish, but then when it was really good, it was exceptionally good, and overall enjoyed it. So I said, oh, let's watch this, and it had Michael Pena in it. So I'm like, oh, cool, I like him, and Diego Luna. Really good cast. So I said, let me watch this. And I didn't know anything about other than they're doing Narcos Mexico. And I see in the first minute, it's going to be the story of Kiki Camarena, who growing up in a law enforcement family, and my father, the division my father was actually mentioned in there when they talk about the Caribbean route being shut down. That's what my father did during the drug war with, his the Haida task forces. They were the ones that, shut that down. And so this is how the drug trade shifts through Mexico. But hearing this about Kiki Camarena, I'm like, oh, well, this will be interesting, because I don't want to spoiling for you in his story, but he is his story of an amazing DEA agent, and this is the kind of the start of the drug war really, really escalating. So season 1 starts with this, and then you get Scoot McNairy's actually doing the narration for it, and season 2 picks up with him and whatnot. But I really enjoyed Narcos Mexico, so highly recommend it.
Cool.
And yeah, I'm not gonna spoil anything. If you don't know what his name means or why, watch this. It's really, really interesting. So Cool. It's been weird.
By the way, just got confirmation from CD Baby. We will launch at the correct price on iTunes of $1.99.
Yay! Is that that's the right appropriate amount, right?
That's what we were informed.
Right.
Is-
Okay.
is the right appropriate amount.
Okay. Great. As long as we're all confident.
So
I mean, yeah. Unless anybody else knows the place where I can get a more comfortable explanation for that, like, unless in the past we've heard from somebody more authoritative than CD Baby.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if they seem to feel like that's not going to be a problem, then I'll trust CD Baby over us. What price?
do you know the story on Kiki Camarena?
I do not know.
Don't.
So he was DEA agent in Mexico, and was a bit of a nuisance. He was to the drug lords, was an amazing agent and really out there and trying to fight a fight that nobody thought we could really win or do or whatever, and he wanted to make a difference. He was captured by Mexican cartels and tortured and killed.
Oh, geez.
And what they thought would be a deterrent, like we'll off this guy, launched a humongous retribution from the DEA, the largest homicide investigation they ever did. And they thought they had one or two DEA agents at the time that were active in the field in Mexico when they killed Camarena. After that, they had an army in there, and it was, the escalated things out of. I mean, like, the people in power then, decimated. It's how El Chapo actually came to power, because he was a driver, basically at that point, was a low-level guy. And after the bloodbath and what was left, he was able to come to the top. So,
Wow.
it's a very, but it's like the start of like the full-on drug war was when and it's one of the reasons why the cartels largely never touched DEA agents. And that was up until then they, left Americans sort of alone. And then they did that. And then it was like, sad. I mean, he was just, a very, very good guy. Anyhow.
Andrew, I just forwarded you an email that might be a good after things topic.
Cool. Let me use the restroom. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Yeah, all I found is an old article that seemed to peg it at 349, but I know we did one at 199 since then, so I don't know.
Is this the price stuff still?
Yeah. But that was what, 8 years ago. Okay, let me make sure the kids aren't fighting.
Oh, okay. Hey, Justin.
We might get front page tomorrow.
Yeah, I did see that. That would be pretty cool.
Should not have said that on the air. Remember to keep things in your head instead of saying them out loud, Justin.
Well, it sounds like he's willing to do it as long as we give him a date and time. So.
Yeah, so I just hit it back.
Great.
And then I sent CD Baby one last thing. It's like, hey, final question for my own sanity. This will track on Billboard, right? Even if it's asking him again.
Yeah, it's a pain that stuff is not more easier to that those rules are not easy to see.
Well,
who knows?
Yeah. The funniest thing is I think we would be the people that they'd ask for, like, if you were writing a story about it, like, we would be the people that you'd ask as experts, right? Because we've done it a couple times.
Let's see here. Yeah, I don't.
I didn't get to plug my thing.
What's your thing, Andrew?
Murder
It's
Theory.
a little book I wrote,
Oh,
sequel to the Wall Street Journal bestseller.
Why didn't you plug it?
Should have plugged
'Cause
it.
I don't want to step on anybody else's plug.
No, because your release
stop
is coming
it.
up too, right? Like in the next couple weeks.
It's okay. It's all right. I'll just talk about it later.
Well,
Oh my God.
Hi.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, whatever. Well, whatever happens will happen, huh?
What's that?
No, we were still talking about the pricing stuff.
I was trying to remember what I watched. I had to go pull up. Netflix has a list of your viewing history. I had to pull that up.
Right.
Really?
Yeah, they'll give you like like an Excel sheet of everything you've ever watched. And it's weird. It doesn't seem like a lot of stuff. I wonder. I think it may not count for duplicates if you watch stuff again, but it's weird to see it all just put into one spreadsheet like that. So.
Yeah. I'm reading the email we got from the After Things thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, Brian, I put in an email to CD Baby just one more time, just because you can never ask too many times to make sure that that's the case. That it'll track. And other than that,
Cool.
in the hopper.
Cool. I'll forward you this. I just found another more recent article, so I'm sure all that stuff is in flux. Newer article.
What does the newer article say?
It says that streams don't count. Hold on.
What year is that? Because
2017. It says the Outline.com post Billboard album charts changes. Starting this week, Billboard will no longer count streaming counts as sales of individual tracks.
right, they
Blah, blah, blah.
plays count as a fraction of a sale, and
Got
so
it.
you need a few hundred plays to count as one sale,
Oh, got it.
unless the article is saying something different.
No, I think you're right. So does that mean we want to? I guess. Do we want to aim for 349, or we probably don't want to make another change?
If we make another change,
it will delay.
It will take. Yeah, it will delay
Okay.
everything.
All right.
We're like,
Yeah, we're the chip's in the water, so we can steer it left or right, but we can't change
Yeah.
the hull.
What about rearranging the deck chairs?
Yeah, well, we'll see if we get there.
So I heard that helps.
No, the way I had at least thought we had all understood it is that a single album was $199, and the only reason why we ever went to the larger one was because it was a double album. And this
Right.
very much fits in single album territory at a runtime of like 40 something minutes.
Yeah, I agree. I just wish I had the full confidence of, hello, it's me, Ted Billboard, and I can tell you for a fact that
Yeah.
this is the right price.
well, and the problem is that's what we're
Yeah.
all running up against, is that they don't have those rules anywhere,
Right.
and the people who would know have not told us, and so
And never have.
never
for the
have.
record.
So
Yeah.
This is the thing that we run up against every
Every
time
time.
we launch the album.
Yep.
if we can do after things though,
Yeah, let's do it.
are you good to go, Andrew? Do you like that letter?
Yeah. Do we what does he do? I went to his YouTube site. Looks like he makes like mods to Nerf guns or something. I was trying to figure out. It was very vague.
Yeah, he doesn't say in the letter, and I don't even know if this is just a hobby thing for him, the YouTube stuff.
Yeah, Nerf, because Nerf, like he mods like Nerf guns or something. I don't know if that's what this relates to or not, but we can talk about it for sure. I mean, we can.
Yeah, I think
listen,
the general
an
question.
absence of facts, information has never stopped us.
Yeah, I mean, I think the general question still applies as far as networking stuff. So.
Yeah, I would wish he had more specifics. My advice would tailor to that, but yeah.
I see. Okay. Well, then feel free to take it away.
3, 2. Hello and welcome to the After Things podcast. I'm Andrew Main, joined by Bryce Castillo.
Hi, everybody.
And our two sidekicks, Justin Robert Young and Brian Brushwood.
Hey!
I'm glad you guys could join the show. I know you've been busy out there promoting your new comedy album.
No, that's a mere sidekick to the brand new Andrew Main book, Murder Theory, the latest in the Theo Cray series. Andrew, when is that coming out?
Not till we got another week or so. So let's promote your project, guys. Enough about me.
I just wanted to point out that Murder Theory from the Naturalist series is coming out in
February 5th.
February 5th. So everybody know that.
Did I tell you that one of my favorite things was hearing my wife use your name as an adjective? Like she was describing the story and she was like, I mean, I don't want to get all Andrew Main about it. And the words Andrew Main mean a certain set of things to me. So I'm imagining like, creative, starting billions of projects, all this stuff. But
that doesn't sound good. She didn't want to go to that Maine place.
Well, but then instead it was like, I don't want to get all Andrew Main about it, but or maybe she said I got this really Andrew Main vibe, and then the next sentence made it clear that in her mind she was using the word Andrew Main to mean a awesome creepy thriller, and it was
cool.
Right. It was great. It was
creepy thought.
I
mean, but I had a really creepy thought.
Well, like
cool. I'll work with that.
Specifically, like we already do that with Stephen King. In fact, Stephen King really enjoyed when he was writing under the name Richard Bachman. There's like this whole scene where he's like, "Well, I don't want to get all Stephen King about it," But that moment,
literary great Stephen King. I wish he could write more books, but the publishers won't let him.
Regardless, I thought it was awesome to hear your name used as a shorthand adjective.
That is a thing we've talked about before, about how your style or who you are kind of happens when you're not really paying attention. It's just when you're just sort of focused on doing things. And, I remember first I'm like, kind of an Andrew Main like book or whatever. I'm like, I'm sure I have habits and things that I do, but I'm unaware of so many of them, and like, your guys' style of comedy and stuff, which I understand. There's a comedy album coming out, right?
Yeah, All's Well, a Night Attack album. If you're in Australia, buy it right now. It's available right now if you're in Australia. If you're not, you got to wait until tomorrow, January 22nd. But I guess Japan, too. Make us big in Japan, baby!
Yeah. So we love it when people send us questions or you can even be hate mail. It's attention. We feed off of that. That's fine.
Maybe not to my email.
But
weird bit off script on that one. That's fine. Go ahead.
What's going on there? You got my letter, I see, Brian. We'll talk it over. And I got a threatening note, by the way, with my Houdini box that somebody said they know where I live.
Well, they should.
One of your
They
employees.
mailed you a package.
Wait, was it from Jacob or David?
I don't know. All I know is we know where you live. I'm like, my address is there. Do you do this for everybody?
Did you solve the Houdini box?
Oh, Brian, I've been writing a book.
Okay, all right. I'm
not smart enough to solve these things, by the way. I don't even get into that. I hate puzzles. I like physical, simple ones that don't have like ciphers and stuff. Anything else makes me angry. All right, let's go to an email that was sent to us. This is from Vlad. Greetings, intrepid adventurers. In recent years, my network of people and skills has expanded beyond the North American continent, and I find myself dealing with companies in the Far East more and more, specifically Singapore and Malaysia. My usual techniques of networking don't really work over the internet, since I make myself stand out with entertaining anecdotes and general good energy as I work my way around a room shaking hands and such. I found that people will remember the big smile and hearty belly laugh they had at a joke and will subsequently be more likely to remember the quick sales pitch that went along with it. This method has been great for me locally, but since flying to Singapore just isn't in the cards quite yet, I need to find another method. I usually get about a dozen inquiries over the course of a year from overseas companies, and those maybe 5 are reputable enough to do business with. My biggest hang-up, aside from knowing what my own services are worth, is how to grow my influence in that area of the world. I can figure I can savvy way of saying, tell all your friends how cool I am to work with. I'd be happy to work at a small discount. I figure I'd be in good shape. Any and all feedback is appreciated, and I'm available for clarifications or further detail through this email address. Love the show. Can't wait to hear more about the goblins.
Oh,
yours in foam, Vladimir Nico.
What a fascinating letter, because I'm left having no idea what this person does, and which causes me to wonder how much it matters for me to know what he does. Like, he's speaking to a kind of a fundamental truth, right? Do we know anything about him?
I think I know that he does like modifies like Nerf guns and stuff and makes replicas and stuff for things like that. I think so. The challenge, I guess, that I would say is like, for me, are you talking about for a hobby that will always not really make you much money, or something that could make you money or whatever? Let's assume that's a business. Let's assume that's a business, some kind involving toys or things or replicas or whatever. I have no idea, but let's assume something like that.
If I was going to guess, it sounds an awful lot like what our friend Bill Duran does with Punished Props. Some kind of, he taught us how to modify and make Nerf weapons into awesome blasters or whatever. I know that the cosplay community is exploding. I know that people will oftentimes hire people to create custom costumes so that they can cosplay and be the awesomest person at various events. So I right now I'm just totally unfairly projecting all that onto this, in which case he's saying that he's getting a lot of interest from a place where he's not able to rely on his natural gifts. In other words, it sounds to me like he's good in the room. Now he's got interest in a place where he can't be in the room, and he is feeling hamstrung by not being able to rely on the stuff that has worked before.
Yeah, although I do feel like this is kind of incomplete in that I have no idea where if this is a mod by mod thing where he's just looking for more referrals, then the work is the best thing that he can do. And then cons where people are using his stuff or something like that. Like, that's really how, Bill continued to build his influence, not only by the fact that he had a great YouTube game, right, but also that when he went to big conventions, people knew him, and at the point where he got too busy for commissions, he could still rely on the fact that like people were using his stuff, like it was out there. And that's what continues to propel him forward. I'm not sure. Like, I mean, this seems like far more of a salesperson's problem, right? That like, I want to sell my widget, or I want to get a good supplier. I found more of that is possible in these other countries. But how do I do that remotely?
So I'm gonna say, hey, let's rewrite the ground rules here. He says, a trip to Singapore is not in the cards. If that's the best thing that could happen, that could be done. One, I mean, let's figure out alternatives too. But I'm like, how would you figure out how to do that? Let's say like, Singapore can be expensive to go there and to go do that, but it's like, okay, how do you make this doable? And I think that often we know face-to-face is the best. Face-to-face, so much of the relationships that you and Justin and Brian have with other podcasters, other people, has been showing up and meeting people. A lot of it's people watching stuff, but showing up and meeting gets you into doors. Shaking hands, doing those things you said does that. So if your business is selling, let's say, mod Nerf guns or something like that, and there's people over there, I would try to figure out like, hey, I would send a little, put a little thing out there and either say, hey, I want to go to Singapore and I want to go to Malaysia and I want to go talk about this, maybe do a workshop or do something like this. Who can help me out? Who has a couch I can stay on? In Magic, we have this wonderful network of magicians around the world. If I say, oh, I'm going to be in Shanghai in 2 weeks, I'm going to find somebody that, even without having done what I've done, even if I'm a guy who's just created some stuff and people like, there will be people that want to host me. There are people going to want to take me out to dinner. There are people going to offer, their houses because they want to share in this.
Yeah, I like the idea of hosting workshops. We've certainly seen versions of that work for friends of ours. When he was running the balloon business, my friend Gus Davis, he wanted to connect with. He took over a company called T. Myers Magic. And that was one of the top distributors of twisty balloons, right? And had a patent on one of the inflators that most people used. And he was like, okay, I'm the new guy. I need to reconnect with my purchasing audience. So he put together a 20 or 30 stop tour where he just went across the country and they I think he called it TJM. And the goal was, let's, in this town, who are the people at the top of their game in the balloon twisting business? Let's get together. Let's have lectures. Let's learn techniques. Let's talk about business. And also, not only was he gathering information the entire time, but also he was learning about them, and they were learning about T. Myers Magic. Something like that could totally happen, even if it was just a one-off. Again, I just wish we knew more about what this guy did. If there was a performance aspect to it, or if there was value in harvesting the mind share of whatever companies he's dealing with in the Far East.
Yeah. Look. If this is something that is involved with like mods or creations, the biggest thing that you can ever do is pictures. Pro pictures are huge. They are something where you can really, really, really take advantage of the fact that they're universal. You don't have to worry about it being a language barrier issue, and that's what will continue to drive business and figuring out where to post, how to post. If you're trying to get over into these other markets and you think that they're really good for you, then I would say make that a goal. Make it a goal to get out there. And everybody's suggestions to do it, I think, have been valid.
Yeah, I do think, just looking at some context clues, that he does do Nerf mods. And I think that is a big part of Vlad's business, is making and doing we've seen a video of him doing some screen printing, or not screen printing, but printing on plastic.
So I would say if this is the space you're playing in, the great thing about doing video stuff is that you can get them captioned, and then you could get them translated.
Yes. With
translated captions very, very affordably. That's something that we're trying to get better about on both the Scam Nation and on the Modern Rogue channel. Captioning is getting increasingly cheap, and translations is getting increasingly cheap. And you have the opportunity to take, whatever language you're speaking, to suddenly reach out to, 80% more of the world. And that's a really good opportunity for to build fans for the very, even though you don't even speak the same language.
Yeah, I think all of that, all the above is a great way. But I am going to say that, I wish I'd been more bold when I was younger. I wished I had been more, and I had, doing certain things, oh, that's possible, whatever. I waited just longer ideas that was ready early, 8 years before to go.
Hey,
oh yeah,
I should have,
Andrew,
figured out how to meet people.
Sorry, we
talk to people.
We crossed a threshold of not being able to follow the thread anymore.
Sorry, your connection's gone really bad, Andrew. I know you dropped probably to try to get it better, but I don't think that's helped any.
All right.
I don't know if you're,
mark it and reconnect,
Alrighty.
or.
Yeah, we'll give him a minute to try to figured this
Yeah.
out.
What a bummer.
Yeah. Internet, man. It's 2019.
I know. What the hell? When are we all gonna get the internet?
All right, he's back in the call. Seeing the face is still a little. Can you try talking to us for just a second, Andrew?
Through my sad face.
No.
Can you keep? Can you talk a little bit more for us?
I'll keep talking, and then you'll go robot-y, and I'll go robot-y, and then I'll wonder why for internet.
Yeah, this.
And I could just go do LTE.
Yeah, if you're able to do that, try that out. Okay, he'll be back in just a minute, everybody.
Yeah.
This-
Super duper pro
This
time.
One mod that Vlad's got in his channel, the Chun Chun Maru, is kind of neat. It's like a fire thing, and he has his name in the Nerf logo style. I don't know.
What a sad world where I have to go use my phone to connect.
I know, right?
In order to reach your global audience.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I think that so my first get if you said, hey, if I'm going to go do a workshop over there for if I can get $20 a head, I can buy a plane ticket. Who'll help me do this? Worth the effort. If I really wanted to go travel somewhere with magic, it's what I would do. There are people who say, like, oh, you got to go through these people to book it, which I did do that. Or it's like, I'm going to do it on my own. Now, alternatives, like you talked about, like doing the YouTube channels and stuff, in a lot of like Singapore, especially, like a good part of your audience is going to speak English, and think about live streaming their hours, think about live streaming when, because it's like, very, it's like opposite side of the world, but think about going in there and say, oh, I'm going to do a live stream and talk to some people from Singapore, focusing on that and building up an audience by just interacting with them live.
Yes, the national language of Singapore is English. So the vast majority of people do speak English there. And look, they're also. I've found anybody when I used to cover magicians in Singapore, they were very, very responsive. They love being connected outside of their part of the country or part of the world rather.
So just a thought, and again, my point about doing time shifted live streaming, different audience, different thing, and you will all of a sudden realize there's an entirely different group of people up at 3 a.m. because 3 a.m. here is 3 p.m. somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny because they're rolling out new beta versions of the analytics tools on YouTube, and in this case, like it grabs the top 5 videos that are performing on your channel, and one of those is Aiko Uwais and Sam Locke teaching us how to do combat stuff from the movie Mile 22. And of course, they're legends in Indonesia. And so you look at the real time past 48 hours, and all of them follow this same curve, except for one video is exactly the opposite direction, where the other 4 ebb. This is where that one flows.
We used to, on our iTricks site, we used to do a pop open like one of these live chat thing where people could pop in there, and we'd get kids from in this case from Indonesia, who didn't speak English, who would just sit there with their decks of cards, watching, participating and stuff, because it was a bunch of other people talking about magic, and they wanted to be part of that, and we liked it. It was fun because it was like, I remember one kid who showed up a lot, who would be there sitting on the floor with his decks of cards and watching. It's not a word of English that we knew, but he was a regular because when he could see tricks and stuff like this, it was cool, and then he'd show us stuff, and it was fun. And
this is when you were doing the Tiny Chat, right?
Yes,
yeah.
So that stuff, like I think that in the case of Neko, I think if YouTube videos are good, but if you're this much of a people person, live stream I think would be great. Would be a great thing. And it's not the same numbers as YouTube. Live stream is 6 people at a time or 12 people at a time, but that can have almost the same effect as being there in person. I prefer when I have a launch to a book, like, I don't know, Murder Theory. My preferred route now is I go on my Twitter and I just Periscope nonstop. I reach far more people than I ever did when I did regular, publishing tours.
And it's also a lot better at calls to action. If it's like, do this now. Everybody's doing this now. Just go ahead. It's so simple. If you send me a thing and now I'm like reading, hey, thank you for this person who sent this in. Now all of a sudden there's social proof that this is not just a thing in the ether.
Yep. 100%. Picks?
You know what? This is a weird pick for me to give because it is outside of my area of expertise, but I suppose that is the reason that we read books, is so that we can become informed. Somebody recently, we're at a weird part where for the very first time, all of the media things that I do are finally under one umbrella. The Mono-Rogue, Scam Nation, all the podcasts or whatever, both of... two of the three podcasts I do, started under another network and we had to reboot as independent or whatever. And a number of people have said, hey, well, have you looked for an angel investor? As because we're obviously getting ready to try to do some daring stuff by building out the 7 acres and building a production studio and expanding the lineup and taking on, new projects. And all of a sudden I realized how little I've never had the opportunity to think of anything I was up to as anything but, Brian Brushwood just running as fast as he can. But as we increasingly are building other things, we increasingly kind of start to look like a startup media company. And it turns out that there are people who want to invest money in those. And all of a sudden, nobody said anything along those lines, but I don't want to sound totally stupid when somebody does come along. So I'm looking to better myself. So I'm currently reading Venture Deals, 3rd edition on Audible from Brad Feld and Jason Mendelson. Just basically like, what do people expect when they do an angel investment? What do people expect when, in terms of a payoff and a valuation and all that stuff? And even if this goes nowhere, it seems like I would be smarter for having learned it than not. So that's what I'm working on right now.
I believe I read that, and I think it was a lot of good advice as far as like counterintuitive, as far as guys who went through it and could tell you more about, I have the older, like the version from like 7 years ago, and it looks like they substantially updated it. I mean that's good. I'd be curious to hear some more of your thinking and thoughts on all of that too, though.
Well, specifically, what's happened is, and we've talked about this on After Things, where it's like in the beginning, you come up with a stage show and you figure out, or I came up with a stage show, and then it's like, okay, what is the max number of people I can reach on a street corner? Okay, well, if we scale up, then I can reach this many people at colleges. If I scale up even more, I could reach maybe 100,000 people over the run of Halloween Horror Nights at Universal. And then at that point, to go any bigger, you kind of have to move into media. And so lacking, we launched Scam School at the right time to scale that up. And then it's like, okay, well, if you want to reach more people, you're going to have to come up with more properties. And so, out of that came Hacking the System and the Mono-Rogue and all that stuff. And now we're finally at a place where we want to, the next phase for me is to reach more people, is to figure out content creation engines that are bigger than the name Brian Brushwood. And once that happens, if we build those engines, it seems like people with deeper pockets and more experience than me might come along. And again, I just don't want to be caught unawares when that happens.
Sure. Absolutely. I think that, that reading all those things is absolutely helpful. The thing I would say to think about, though, is that if ultimately they want to invest in a thing that makes money. They want to invest in a path to make money, and that's what you're building. Is you're building this pathway to making money, and to say this is how we're going to make more money. By doing X, we get more money. And the thing I would tell you to think seriously about is, do I want to give that up to somebody else because it's what you're doing? If you have another way to raise said money, another way to get that funding without giving up a piece of what you're doing, because once you do that, you've been around enough people who've been in there. On one hand, it's exciting, it's gratifying that somebody just says, hey, we put $5 million into this. And it's like, yes, but that's when it starts. That's when it starts, and it's a whole new level, because now
I have to keep these people happy, and I have to build this thing. And it's a thing just to think a lot about, the pro and the con.
Yeah, and I guess that's the good news is that I'm informing myself now because there is no opportunities, so that when there is an opportunity, I will be informed on how these things tend to go.
Well, I mean the opportunity is there if you want it. I mean, you draw a circle around what you're doing. You lay out a business plan, or depending upon who you're reading, if you should have a formal plan or not, whatever. You can make these things happen, but also understand too is you just my concern would be is that if the idea comes into your head the first time somebody comes up to you, that may sound attractive, but then the reality is that there might be 50 more attractive opportunities if you're going to pursue that,
Right.
So yeah, but anyhow, I'm excited.
Excited for the nothing that might be a thing in 5 years.
Excited that Brian's reading a book.
Well, I mean, I've gone through this with in my own small scale stuff. Where first I'm like, I'll have something. Then I've had people said, oh, we like the way you do stuff. We'd be willing to put stuff in, some help fund or angel something. And I'm like, oh, it sounds cool. And then when I get to the point where I'm like, when I'm the point where I'm like, oh, I can totally self-finance this. Why would I let anybody come in and do this now? And then it's like, oh, I see, oh man, I see both, both sides.
And that is the weird part, right? Is because we are self-financing everything, and in the short term, there are tangible benefits to consolidating all of us working in the same place, and it makes sense for us to have a property and all this stuff. But at some point, it's not unreasonable for me to guess that in the next 5 years, there may be some other idea that does scale and that would attract that stuff. And so that's why I need to start filling my head with these core understandings now, not for anything that I have in my mind today, but it's for the thing that I don't yet know what will pop into my mind that I want to be ready.
Totally agree. Other picks, anybody?
Yeah, my pick is spoiler alert, involves 1960 election. Double Cross, written by Sam Giancana, but the nephew of the Sam Giancana that the book's about, and Chuck Giancana, the brother of Chicago mob boss Sam Giancana. It's a book about mob stories, and man, I'll tell you, these mob stories, they're so crazy. You won't believe them, and it probably is smart for you to not believe them because, man, to read this book, Sam Giancana was the most important person in America, pulling literally everybody's strings from the CIA to the president on down, which seems odd for somebody that wound up in exile for 10 years and then dead in his kitchen.
Oof.
It's not unknown that people don't recognize the reach and power and the influence that some of these people have, and they have to point it out to us. I'm reminded of, man, I don't want to get too much into it, but I knew a guy that got involved with somebody who was South Florida. This guy who was had made a movie about his life, and he was kind of peripherally involved in the mob, but he was basically like a cat burglar guy or whatever, but he was a bit mobbed up. And he had a movie made, and he watched this movie made, and it's this most glorification kind of story of this kind of guy's life. And it was awkward. I got invited to a screening, and I'm watching this, and I knew that this guy was, a mob-related guy. And paid for this thing to be made. It didn't go out anywhere, but this is weird sitting there watching this. This is a very interesting movie.
Look, Sam Giancana is an important figure in history, and I think that we would all be better to understand his life. However, there's definitely a solid page discussing his irresistible sexual chemistry and how he would make it a routine to sleep with his enemies' wives so they would tell him secrets, which I'll just say I don't exactly know if everything went down exactly the way that they that
Right.
he describes.
Yeah.
But look, it's written from the perspective largely of the brother, and the brothers they came from a very screwed up family, which is fairly beyond dispute that their father was a very violent man, and so I think he looked at him as a hero, as people often look at their older brothers. I just don't know if I would take every word that Sam Giancana said verbatim.
I have a quick pick. I watched this over the weekend because it was a new Netflix film. It's IO, the film IO. I think this film is probably not for me, partially because, again, I don't think Netflix makes good trailers, and the trailer for this sells it as like a big actiony sort of road trip movie, when really it's more of a quieter, self-contained sort of drama. It's a sci-fi drama about a young woman living on Earth, which is been ravaged by some sort of man-made destruction, and is trying to work on saving the Earth somehow, and finds out that there are only a few more days to take the last ship off of Earth to the wherever humanity is in the orbit of Io, while they're waiting for a new Earth to be found. And she meets a guy who's also on the way to the rocket ship, and it's very talky, it's very discussion heavy, and it's very relaxed with its pacing and stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that I didn't like about it, but I do think if you're in a very contemplative dramas, IO is you could find a worse way to spend 90 minutes than IO.
The ringing endorsement.
I know.
Like, watch that Adobe, like I, when it was like Titan or whatever, about
Right.
Getting ready to go to the planet Titan because we've ruined Earth, kind of thing. And it's like,
Is that what that was about?
A theme here. What if they're trying to send us a message? What do they know?
Well, and because I've never seen that movie. I know what you're talking about, Titan, and the way that it's written on Netflix makes it sound like it's like a monster mutant story.
Are you thinking of the Europa project?
No, I'm pretty sure it's called Titan.
Okay.
But it's another thing of like Netflix selling stuff not exactly as it is. But I think there are some people who will really like IO for what it is.
Yeah.
IO.
My pick is I watched a classic film, one that I think warrants maybe every 15 years or so going back and watching again, and you see some of the first performances of such actors as William H. Macy and Chaz Palminteri. Small roles, but still notable for the fact that they're very small roles for these guys, and they're the most famous people in the movie. Although it's a movie many people remember, and it's a fun movie. I'm talking about The Last Dragon.
Oh, wow.
Sure enough. So that's on, I think that's on Netflix right now. So if you've never seen The Last Dragon, it was a movie produced by Berry Gordy, the Motown producer, and it features the story of Bruce Leroy, who is a martial arts master and a quiet young man who is forced to protect the TV music host played by Vanity from the bad guy Eddie Arcadian, as well as fight off against Sho'nuff, who is the Shogun of Harlem. And it's a fun, cute movie. You've got like the first appearance of Ernie Reyes Jr., who'd go on to go do like the TV show Sidekicks and stuff. The guy who plays Sho'nuff, he was a Buller on Briscoe County Jr. And so it's a fun, quirky movie. And also what's interesting about it is it's very much a product of the 80s. And you can tell it was produced by, a music producer, because in the middle of it, they played the DeBarge music video, Rhythm of the Night. And it was the debut of their song.
Oh,
like
really?
Yeah. You watch like, Vanity throws it to like, now something's really hot now, DeBarge, it's Rhythm. It's like Rhythm of the Night plays like almost in its entirety. Which led me going on to something like one of the things I never maybe I knew, but I didn't really acknowledge was DeBarge was the family. El DeBarge was the lead singer in that song. The other people there were the family members. And then you start reading about the whole tragic story of the DeBarge family. And it's like, oh my God, like that's just a whole nother that's a biopic waiting to happen. So, two of the brothers like arrested for selling drugs, whatever, died. I mean, two died of like HIV. I mean, just a horrible sort of, this extremely talented family dealing with all sorts of adversities and stuff. But anyhow, Last Dragon, you got to watch the video. Feel the rhythm of the night. So, there you go. It's been after.
Alrighty. Hey, we made it.
We did it.
We survived. Alrighty. Well, anything else coming up for you later today, Andrew or Justin?
Yeah, I got jury at 3. I think that's the last thing I'm streaming today. But tomorrow, oh my God! If you like Brian and I on the internet, then holy crap, we're doing the second hour of TMS together. We're doing DTNS together. We're doing jury together. We're doing Night Attack, of course, at 7 p.m. Pacific time, 10 p.m. Eastern time. All in support of All's Well, a Night Attack album. Again, Japanese and Australians. Get it now. It's available now. Go, go, go.
Alrighty. Yeah, and we'll be back with Chord Killers in a couple hours here. So with that, thank you, everybody. We'll see you later. Bye.
Yup.